Stop staring at the gas pump, look at your plate. On February 28th, missiles hit Tehran. You watched the oil price spike. But while everyone stared at the fuel gauge, the real strike landed somewhere else. Your kitchen table. That 33-kilometer strait everyone keeps talking about doesn't just move oil. It moves the one thing that makes food grow. Right now, 23 ships loaded with it are stuck on the wrong side of a war zone. Only one got through. Oops. Today is March 14th, 2026. Fertilizer prices have jumped roughly 35% since the bombs fell. Spring planting starts this month. Farmers need to order now. They can't. This isn't a fuel crisis with a food problem attached. This is a food crisis disguised as a fuel crisis. And by the time it hits your grocery receipt, nobody will connect it to a missile 8,000 miles away. By the end, you'll understand how a war in the desert kills a harvest in Iowa. Why the ingredient that feeds half the planet travels through a war zone. And who pays the bill when the world's most important recipe loses its most invisible ingredient? Let's call her Diane, 44, owns a small bakery in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Every morning at 4 a.m. she mixes dough. Flour, water, yeast, salt. Simple recipe. Except the flour comes from wheat. The wheat needs nitrogen. Nitrogen comes from ammonia. Ammonia is made from natural gas. And that gas ships through a 33-kilometer choke point where two countries are currently lobbing missiles. Diane has never heard of the Strait of Hormuz. But Hormuz just raised the price of her flour. Stay with me. Here's the connection nobody is making. Everyone knows the Strait of Hormuz moves oil. A fifth of the world's supply. Almost nobody knows it also moves roughly a third of the world's seaborne. Fertilizer, ammonia, urea, the raw ingredients that make soil produce food. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Iran supply a massive share of the planet's nitrogen fertilizers. Virtually all of it transits Hormuz. The exact trigger is debated, but when Iran fired back at U.S. bases across 4 countries, shipping insurers pulled coverage. Tanker captains turned around. The fertilizer trade ground to a halt. 23 laden vessels stuck. One got through. Think of it like a recipe. Your bread has 4 ingredients, you see: flour, water, yeast, salt. But underneath sits a fifth you never see: nitrogen. Without it, wheat doesn't grow. Without wheat, no flour. Without flour, Diane has no bakery. That invisible ingredient is over 100 years old, powered by natural gas, and shipped through the most contested water on Earth. Remove it and every recipe on the planet rewrites itself. Upward. Since the war started, urea prices have spiked roughly 35%. In 2 weeks. And it's hitting during the one window that matters. Farmers order fertilizer in March to apply in April. Miss that window and the crop is smaller. Less wheat, more expensive flour. The loaf Diane sells costs more, or she sells fewer. Or both. A missile in February just edited the harvest in October. Oops. But it gets worse. Qatar provides roughly 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas. That gas powers fertilizer plants everywhere. Last week, Qatar declared force majeure, a legal term meaning we cannot deliver what we promised. So even factories outside the Gulf are losing fuel for their machines. The chain straight closes, gas stops. Factories slow. Fertilizer spikes. Farmers cut back, crops shrink. Wheat costs more, flour costs more, bread costs more. Diane raises her price or closes her door. You pay more or eat less. 7 links. First link, a missile. Last link, your dinner. Nobody voted for this. Call it the fertilizer guillotine. Picture Diane's bakery at 5 a.m. Oven is hot. Dough is rising, delivery truck is late, she checks her phone. Flour supplier. Prices adjusted effective immediately. 15% increase. She looks at the chalkboard. $4 sourdough. Picks up the chalk, erases the 4, writes $4.50. Third time this year. A customer walks in, sees the new price, pauses, orders a half loaf instead of a whole one. The customer blames Diane. Diane blames the supplier. The supplier blames shipping. Shipping blames insurance. Insurance blames the war. The war blames national security. Oops. The blame travels 8,000 miles. The bill stays right here on the counter. Now the pushback. The U.S. produces 3/4 of its own fertilizer. America isn't dependent on Hormuz for supply. Fair point, but fertilizer is globally traded. When Gulf supply vanishes, everyone bids for what's left. A farmer in Iowa competes with a buyer in Brazil for the same ton of urea. The global price sets the local price. Your domestic production doesn't shield you. It just means you're standing in a slightly shorter line at a much more expensive store. 3 things to carry with you. Economic. A third of the world's seaborne fertilizer flows through 33 kilometers of contested water. No backup pipeline, no strategic fertilizer reserve. The system was built assuming this strait would never close. It closed. Social. Corn is king in America. 95% of U.S. grain production. The most fertilizer-hungry crop on Earth. When fertilizer spikes, corn follows. And corn isn't just food. It's feed, ethanol, sweetener, cooking oil. The guillotine doesn't cut one price. It cuts across the entire grocery store. Global. Analysts estimate this could raise food-at-home inflation by roughly 2 percentage points. For sub-Saharan Africa, where farmers import most of their fertilizer from the Gulf, this isn't a price hike. It's a hunger sentence. Missiles aimed at military targets. Shrapnel landing on dinner tables worldwide. Remember the invisible ingredient? Nitrogen. The thing in your bread you never think about, made from gas you never see, shipped through a strait you never heard of. It feeds half the humans on Earth. Right now it's sitting in the hold of a ship that can't move. In Cedar Rapids, Diane is erasing another number on her chalkboard. She's not watching the news. She's watching her margins disappear. Her customers don't know about Hormuz or Ammonia or Urea, they just know bread costs more. And they're buying half a loaf. The question isn't whether this war is justified. The question is whether anyone in a Situation Room 8,000 miles away has ever priced a loaf of bread. If your grocery receipt looks different this month, now you know why. What's food costing where you live? Tell me in the comments. If this changed how you see the line between a missile and a meal, stick around. We follow the money, not the headlines.